Good evening. Welcome. I'm just going to let the cat out. Okay, one person there. Hi. So, welcome back. This evening we're going to be doing yin yoga. And it's going to be, if you did the class last Friday, then it's going to be part 2 of yin yoga in the core. But if you've been doing the yin yang yogas on Wednesdays, then it's actually part 4, focus on the floor, on the core. But if you haven't done any of them, then that's fine. That's not a problem. You can use this as an independent class. So just a brief introduction. The core can be considered the torso, but it can also be considered the whole of the sort of main part of the body, from the feet going up the basically the middle part of the legs into the torso, and then continuing up through the torso to the tongue. So that is where we're going to be focusing. Last Friday for the yin yoga we focused particularly on the joint, the arm here, the humerus, which is obviously connected to, the main, one of the main joints connected to the torso, to the core. And today we're going to be doing more the leg joint here, the femur. So the joints are something that we quite often exercise in yin yoga. There's a lot of connective tissue in and around the joint areas, and what we're trying to do here is to strengthen that connective tissue and also to lubricate them, so potentially to give more range of movement, actually maybe something that you've lost in those joints. So welcome. I can see a couple more people here. So just before I start, I just want to show you what those movements are when we're talking about the femur. So actually I'm going to stand up here. Sorry if you can hear the cat meowing. Just to show you what they are and what we're going to be, the movements we're going to be making today. You won't be able to see my head. That's okay, I want you to see my legs. So the first movement is flexion. So this is flexion. Extension is when the leg goes back. And then what we've also got is rotation. So like basically like this. So we're rotating from the hip ultimately. So external rotation, and then also internal rotation. So external rotation, internal rotation. As well as that, we've got abduction. So that's when the legs go out. And then adduction, which is when the legs come together. So for example, maybe they cross over, coming together, adduction. So those are the movements that we're going to be doing today, or most of them at least. So let's start with a meditation. So if you just want to get into a comfortable seated position, as always, whatever that is for you. So just kneeling, cross-legged, whatever's comfortable. Close your eyes. And just then notice the body. See if the body feels straight, and if not, just wiggle around a bit and just see if you can make the body straight. And then just coming to the legs, just checking to see are the legs comfortable. It's good to spend a couple of minutes before a meditation just to checking that you're as comfortable as you can be. The feet and the ankles. The hips. And then how do the arms feel? Do they feel fairly relaxed? and the shoulders. Again, just making small movements, small adjustments if they aren't. And the head as well. And perhaps noticing if you feel like you're holding your head up, which can be quite common. Maybe bringing the head down a little so that it's straight. And then coming to the face, seeing if you're holding any tension in the face, particularly around the eyes, between the eyebrows. And see if you can soften those areas. The forehead. Imagine perhaps that you're sending your breath to these areas. And on the out breath, soften. And then because we're going to be working on the torso, on the core, then of course what's in the center of the torso at least is the heart. So we're just going to bring our attention to this area here. So first just rub your hands together so they get warm. Then place one hand on the heart area and then the other hand on top. And then notice the warmth. And notice how the hands rise and fall as the chest rises and falls. Just breathing your normal breath. Just noticing those movements. Slowing the breath down a little, keeping it smooth and even, but slower. Keeping your focus on the area of the heart, a key part of the core. Noticing the rise and the fall of the chest, and the rise and the fall of the hands on the chest. Being with your experience, however small that may seem. Just being there with it. Not letting it pass by without noticing. Paying it some attention. And then on the next out breath, just drop the hands to the legs. Still keeping that slow breath. And seeing if you can keep it within the poses. And then when you're ready, you can open the eyes. And we'll move into the first pose, which is dragon. So if you have blocks, you might want to use them. If you don't, that's okay. So just move on to hands and knees. And if your knees dig into the floor, you might want to put something underneath them. So that can be a blanket, or you can fold the mat to go under the knees as well. So go onto hands and knees. And then bring the right foot between the hands. So what we're going to do here, we've flexed this front leg and we've extended the back leg. So what we want is to feel a stretch on this back hip flexor. Now don't go all the way in, because remember we're going to be in this for about 4 minutes. Walk the foot a bit further forward if you want to feel more stretch on the back leg. Walk the front foot a bit further back if you want to feel less. So we've got hands on either side of the front foot. You can put the hands on blocks if you want to. And we want to be able to relax into the pose but still feel that stretch in that back hip flexor. If you've brought that front foot forward quite a lot and you're still not feeling much stretch, then some people might find that by bending the back foot, the back knee, that might give them more. And you could be feeling this in a number of places in the front leg. So what we're going to do is, in dragon, we're going to do 2 different variations. So this first one is going to be for around 2 minutes. So make sure that you're at that point where you're feeling the stretch in the back hip flexor, maybe even into the quads. But that you can stay in it for 2 minutes without feeling like you're straining. That's really important. I think there may be a couple of new students with us today. Welcome. And so for you, if you haven't done yin yoga before, then we do stay in these poses for a number of minutes so that we can get deep into the connective tissue. So for each pose, I will tell you where we want to be feeling it. So which area of the body we want to be feeling a mild to moderate stimulation. Be that stretch, compression, twist, stress in some way. So we want to be feeling it, but we don't want to be we want to be using as little muscular effort as possible. If we're using our muscles, that means we can't get, it's much more difficult to get into the deep connective tissue of the body. And then when we found the pose, we want to resolve to stay relatively still. Unless you feel at any point that it's got too much, or you've perhaps lost the stimulation a bit, then adjust the pose. But always listen to your body, and if anything feels like it's actually hurting rather than stimulation over a general area, then do adjust the pose. Back off or come out. Really important to pay attention, to see what's happening for you. So we've been in this for 2 minutes now, so we're going to do a slightly different variation of this. So we're keeping the back leg the same, but we're going to go up. So last time our back was stretched, this time it's going to be more of an arch, so we're actually compressing the back. So that might be up here on the knee, but then you might feel that that's actually too much muscular effort. So if that's the case, then you can bring something underneath the hands and either stay on the hands or perhaps up on the fingers. It doesn't need to be blocks, it can be anything. It can just be something that basically raises you up. So we've still got that stretch in the back hip flexor. And we've still got some sensations in the front leg, and that can be different for different people, depending on where your leg is as well. But this time, rather than stretching the back as we were when we were folding forward, this time we're compressing the back by arching the spine. Trying to use as little muscular effort as possible. If you're using a lot, then just back off a bit. So we're going to be in this variation for about 1.5 minutes. So make sure that you're in the right position for you and adjust if you need to. And then when you've found your pose, just close your eyes. Focus on the feeling, on the sensation. Keeping that breath long, slow, as we did before. And if this is still too high for you, then just put the hands on the floor. Or the fists. But then rather than folding forward, bring in that bit of an arch in the spine. And we'll be here for another 30 seconds or so. Okay, so we're going to move out of this. So then just slowly, that back leg may be feeling very fragile, maybe the front leg too. Walk the hands back, sit down on the heel, and the front leg is straight, and you're up on the heel. So we've just changed the position of the legs. You can sit down if you want to, you don't need to sit on the heel. Before we go to the other side, I just want you to notice how the right and the left legs feel. Close your eyes if you want to. And we are going to be going to the other side, so just notice if on the first side, if actually that was a bit too much stimulation. We're looking for kind of sort of 30 to 50% of what you can do if you went in completely. So we're certainly not going in completely, about 30, 40, possibly 50%. No more than that. And when you feel the sensation starting to ease off a bit, we're going to go to the other side. So onto hands and knees. Left foot between the hands. Walking the foot back to feel less stretch on that back leg. Walking the foot forward to feel more. So you'll notice as you walk further forward, this back leg extends more. So basically the back leg goes further back. If you want even more stretch, push the back leg out further. If you want less, bring the knee forward. It's basically the same position. The same thing we're doing as if we're walking the foot forward and back. Play with that. Notice if that's okay. Put your hands on the blocks if that's helpful, or the books, or the cushions, or whatever. If that just allows you to sort of relax into the pose, then drop the head. We'll be here for about 1.5 minutes. And allow the back to stretch as well. And the neck. And it may be for you that actually you can bring the elbows down to the floor. That's fine. Just do whatever you need to do to get the right amount of stimulation in the legs and the hips. Keeping the breath slow and even. Maybe using the out breath to help you deepen into the pose and let gravity bring you down. And then we're going to move from dragon to a more active dragon. So as I said, you can go up here, but if you feel that that's too muscular, use the blocks. So put the hands on the blocks, or the cushions, or whatever, on whatever height you want, or on the floor. But we want to have more of an arch in the spine now. So bringing the head up, looking forward. Play with it and find what is more appropriate for you. And because this is yin yoga, Angie, I just saw Angie. We're not trying to use muscular effort, as I said. We're trying to relax into it, which some people can find quite challenging in dragon, me included, but others not. Some people love dragon, some people really don't. We'll be here for another, just over a minute. Close your eyes again if that's comfortable. And remember, always adjust if it's too much or not enough stimulation. So if you're finding now, for example, that actually, because you've relaxed into the pose and gravity has brought you down, that there's too much stretch in that back hip flexor, bring that knee forward a bit. Or bring that front foot back a bit. So then we're going to push back again, same thing, so sitting back slowly, slowly on that back heel, straightening the front leg, going up on the front heel as well. This time bend both knees and we're going to go into child's pose. So we're just going to kneel and fold over. With the hands wherever you want, you can put them on the floor in front of you or you can put them down by your sides. This is a rebound pose where you're going to notice the effects of the pose. We're not doing anything, we're just relaxing here. And then just come back up again. And we're going to move into rotation. Rotation of the femur, of the leg. So first of all, so basically, as I said, your leg is going to go out like this. So we're rotating in the hips. So when we sit cross-legged, actually, that's what we're doing. And you may decide actually that you want to stay cross-legged. But the other option is square. So we start cross-legged, then we bring the front leg forward a bit so it's more square to the front of the mat, and then the left foot, the left leg forward to meet it. I think you can see that, yeah? So it's kind of like a wider cross-legged, basically. And then we're going to fold forward. So what we want to feel here, so that right leg is in front, the left leg is behind. We want to feel a stretch on the outside, so the glute area going down the leg of the left leg here. And you may also be feeling it in the right. So if you're feeling that mild to moderate stretch here in the leg and perhaps in the back, then stay. If it's too much, then come back up and then try doing it cross-legged instead. If that's not enough, then kind of try to find something in between the two. Pay attention, as always, to your knees. So your legs can be actually, you can bring them a bit closer together. You can adduct them. You can bring them a bit closer together so the feet are going further away. Or you can do more of a wide square as well. So try that. So basically move if that initial pose is not working for you, try moving the legs around so that you're not feeling any painful sensations in the hips and the knees and the groin area, the back, anything. But you're feeling that 30 to 50% stretch in the side of the left leg. And when you found that, then fold forward. And we'll be in this for around 3 minutes. The arms you can do whatever you want with. Just keep the arms relaxed. Close your eyes. Slow down the breath. Notice how that feels on the leg. Maybe in both legs. Maybe the back. Notice how it changes over time. Maybe it moves, you can feel the stretch move perhaps a bit more to the other side. Maybe it gets more intense. Maybe it gets less. Maybe it moves to a different part of the leg. Everything changes all the time. In our yoga practice, in our lives, in everything around us, instead of fighting against that change, notice it. Go with it. Because it's inevitable. So this is something important that we practice in Yin Yoga because we have the time to do it. And to notice it. Okay, so then let's come up. before we go to the other side, we're going to use one of those other movements, abduction. So we're just going to separate the legs. Now if you feel like you're falling back, like me, you might want to sit up on something. And then basically fold forward. So we want to feel a stretch on the inside thighs here. So again, how is that stretch? Are you okay to stay here for around 3 minutes? Is it enough? If it's not, you might want to separate the legs a bit more. If it's okay, if it's too much, then bring them a bit closer together. Now, if you're finding that it's not comfortable on the backs of the knees, then you can bend the knees a bit. You can bend the knees and you can place something underneath the knees. It may mean that you lose the stretch in the inside thighs a bit, but that's not the end of the world, as long as you've got something there. So we'll stay here for around 2.5 minutes now. For me, I've already lost the stretch a bit in one leg, so I'm just going to adjust, gently adjust. No sudden movements. And you may well find that you've got more stretch in one leg than the other. That's normal, we're not parallel. And perhaps notice, just make very small movements. Moving the body a bit to the right. And see how that stretch changes, where it goes to a different place. And then the same, go to the left. Small, small movements. Noticing where the stretch is, which part of the leg, which leg. By just really small movements. So then on the next out breath, come up, come to the centre. If you're sitting up on anything, then just move that away. Just straighten the legs in front of you. Just before we move to the other side of square. Hands on the floor behind you. Notice how the legs feel. And then we're going to move to the other side for square. So last time we had, if I remember correctly, the right leg in front of the left. So this time, first of all, cross your legs, but with the left in front of the right. If you found last time that that was enough for you when you fold over, everyone can try actually. Then stay with cross-legged. Otherwise, bring the front leg forward, the front shin forward, and the back one to join it so that the Legs are more square, and then fold forward. Is that stimulation okay for you for around 3 minutes? Are you feeling any pain anywhere? If you are feeling anything in the groin or the knees, for example, then do come back up and play with the legs. Take the feet further away so the knees come closer together. You could try that. Or the knees further away and the feet closer together. That's another option as well. And then fold forward when you find your pose. And we'll be here for around 2 more minutes. 2.5. And then after your next out breath, just come back up to the center, bring the torso back up to the center. And then just put your legs out in front of you. Be gentle. You can feel quite fragile after long poses. And then just lie back to move into Shavasana. So without making any big movements, just adjust yourself. Close your eyes, if that's comfortable. And just notice how you feel. Physically, mentally, maybe emotionally, perhaps energetically. Anything that you notice. There's no need to make a story about it. Just noticing, just being. Just relaxing. invite you, as always, to please stay here for as long as you want. I will be back on Wednesday, lunchtime, for Yin Yang Yoga, and here again next Friday evening for long, slow, deep Yin Yoga. I hope you enjoyed this class. Namaste.